Engagement returns before progress is noticed. When a person sits at a drum kit, hands resting on the snare, sticks touching the surface without movement, the scene already contains repetition. No sound has begun. No intention is declared. The body is present in the same physical relationship it has occupied many times before. This return to the instrument does not signal advancement. It signals recurrence. The drum kit, the position of the hands, and the quiet presence of time in the room are not new. They are familiar, even if unnoticed. The recurrence of the same position. In early encounters with the instrument, repetition is often interpreted as a lack of change. The same seat height, the same reach to the snare, the same silence before sound. These elements appear unchanged and therefore dismissed as static. What is often missed is that recurrence does not imply stagnation. Returning to the same physical configuration is not evidence that nothing is happening. It is evidence that the system has not been abandoned. The body recognizes this return before the mind names it. The hands arrive where they have arrived before. The instrument occupies the same space. This repetition exists before evaluation. Repetition without accumulation. A common assumption is that repetition functions only by adding something each time. More speed, more control, more certainty. Under this assumption, if nothing measurable has been added, repetition is judged as empty. This assumption confuses accumulation with recurrence. Accumulation requires visible change. Recurrence requires continuity. They are not the same process. In repeated contact with the drum kit, what returns first is not skill but orientation. The body learns how to arrive again. This arrival does not register as improvement, yet it maintains the conditions under which improvement could later be recognized. The unnoticed cycle. Practice environments often emphasize novelty, new material, new challenges, new variations. These elements are visible and therefore easier to credit. Recurrence is quiet and therefore overlooked. Yet learning systems operate through cycles, not through constant escalation. Returning to the same physical and temporal conditions allows perception to reset. What was previously invisible may become noticeable, not because it changed, but because the observer did. This cycle does not announce itself. No marker signals its completion. The drummer may feel as if nothing has shifted, even while perception has reorganized. Presence before interpretation. At the instrument, engagement can exist without interpretation. Hands resting on drums do not require explanation. The body does not ask whether this moment counts. This condition is important because it removes pressure to evaluate each return. When evaluation dominates recurrence, the cycle is interrupted. The system becomes oriented toward judgment instead of continuity. Allowing recurrence to exist without immediate interpretation preserves the loop. The drummer returns. The environment remains stable. Time passes. The cycle completes without demand. Learning as revisiting. Learning is often framed as forward motion. Each session is expected to produce something new. This framing struggles to account for situations where the same material is revisited without obvious gain. Revisiting is not redundancy. It is how perception deepens. The same rhythm, the same motion, the same silence can reveal different information at different times. This does not occur because the material changed. It occurs because the observer did. The cycle allows this change to emerge without forcing it. The role of return in engagement. Engagement is often mistaken for intensity. In reality, engagement is sustained return. The act of coming back to the instrument establishes continuity, regardless of what happens during the session. This return does not require motivation. It does not require clarity of goal. It requires only that the cycle remain unbroken. When engagement is understood as return rather than performance, repetition stops being a measure of effort and becomes a measure of contact. Stability across cycles. Each return to the drum kit reinforces a stable relationship with time and space. The instrument remains where it was. The body recognizes its position. The environment does not demand novelty. This stability allows subtle adjustments to occur without being forced. The drummer may not identify these adjustments as progress. They may register only as familiarity. Familiarity is often undervalued. Yet it is familiarity that allows perception to refine itself quietly. Absence of visible markers. One difficulty in recognizing cyclical learning is the absence of milestones. There is no clear signal that says a cycle has completed. There is no certificate for recurrence. This absence can create doubt. The drummer may question whether returning to the same material is useful. The system, however, does not require reassurance. Cycles function regardless of whether they are acknowledged. The body continues to register time, space, and contact with the instrument. The quiet accumulation. While recurrence does not add visible elements, it accumulates stability. This accumulation is not easily measured. It does not announce itself as an improvement. It appears later as reliability, as consistency, as reduced friction when encountering new material. These outcomes are downstream effects, not immediate results. At the moment of recurrence, none of this is visible. The cycle operates without promising anything. Neutral continuity. The return to the drum kit does not need to be framed as discipline or commitment. It exists as a neutral act. The body arrives, the instrument is present, time continues. This neutrality is important. It removes emotional charge from repetition. The cycle does not need to feel productive to function. When recurrence is allowed to remain neutral, it sustains engagement without pressure. Consequences of misunderstanding recurrence. When recurrence is interpreted as failure, the cycle is often broken. The drummer seeks novelty to escape perceived stagnation. The system loses continuity. This interruption does not create progress. It creates fragmentation. Each new start lacks the accumulated stability of return. Misunderstanding recurrence as wasted time replaces engagement with evaluation. The system shifts from learning to justification. Allowing the cycle to exist. A learning system does not require constant reinforcement to operate. Cycles complete themselves when allowed to run. Returning to the same physical and temporal conditions at the instrument maintains this operation. Nothing needs to be extracted from each return. The cycle does not ask for belief. It functions through repetition of presence. Closure without conclusion. At the drum kit, engagement can return many times before progress is noticed. The body recognizes these returns even when the mind does not. Recurrence does not announce its value. It sustains conditions. It preserves continuity. It allows perception to reorganize quietly. Learning does not always move forward. Sometimes it returns again and again until something settles without being named.